What if I told you that the biggest reason most people struggle with money has nothing to do with intelligence, nothing to do with education, and nothing to do with opportunity? What if the problem is something much deeper? Something so deeply rooted in the way we think that most people never even notice it. Because the truth is, money doesn't just reveal who you are, it amplifies who you are. And until you understand that, you may spend your entire life chasing wealth without ever finding financial freedom. For the next few minutes, I want you to forget everything you've been told about money, because what you're about to hear could completely change the way you see it forever. Most people grow up believing that money is the goal. From a young age, we're taught to study hard, get good grades, find a stable job, work for decades, and hopefully retire someday with enough money to enjoy life. But there's a hidden problem with this way of thinking. It assumes that money creates freedom. In reality, money is only a tool. And like every tool, its value depends entirely on the person using it. A hammer can build a house or destroy one. Money works the same way. Many people spend their entire lives pursuing more money without ever developing the mindset required to keep it, grow it, or use it wisely. That's why lottery winners often go broke. That's why successful athletes sometimes lose fortunes. And that's why some people build wealth from almost nothing. The difference is rarely money itself. The difference is understanding. Think about it for a moment. If money alone created happiness, every millionaire would be fulfilled. Every celebrity would be at peace. Every successful entrepreneur would wake up excited every single day. But reality tells a different story. History is filled with examples of people who achieved incredible financial success and still felt empty. Some struggled with depression. Others destroyed their relationships. Many spent their entire lives chasing bigger numbers, only to realize that the finish line never arrived. Because money has a strange characteristic. Whatever exists inside you today will often become stronger when money arrives. If you're generous, money can make you more generous. If you're disciplined, money can create more opportunities. But if you're careless, impatient, or constantly seeking validation, money often amplifies those traits as well. This is why financial education matters far more than financial income. A person who understands money can build wealth slowly and consistently. A person who doesn't understand money can lose a fortune almost as quickly as they earn it. The world teaches us how to make money. Very few people teach us how to think about it. And that difference changes everything. Imagine someone hands you $100. Most people see money, but what they don't see is time. Because every dollar represents hours of someone's life. Hours spent working, hours spent learning, hours spent solving problems. Money is simply time converted into value. And once you understand this, spending money feels different. You begin to ask different questions. Is this purchase worth the hours of my life required to earn it? Will this decision create future value? Or is it simply temporary satisfaction? The wealthy often think differently because they understand this principle deeply. They don't just spend money. They allocate resources. And resources are limited. Imagine walking into a store and seeing a luxury watch. The price tag says $1,000. Most people stop there. But someone who understands the value of time sees something completely different. They ask, how many hours of my life does this watch represent? How many days? How many weeks? And perhaps most importantly, what am I giving up in exchange for it? Every financial decision is a trade. Every purchase is an exchange between your present self and your future self. The problem is that modern society encourages us to think emotionally rather than strategically. We buy things to impress people. We buy things to fit in. We buy things because advertisements convince us that happiness is only one purchase away. Yet the excitement rarely lasts. A few days later, we begin looking for the next thing. And the cycle repeats itself. Understanding money means understanding human psychology. Because money is rarely spent logically. It is usually spent emotionally. Most people believe their biggest obstacle is a lack of money. But often, the real obstacle is a lack of perspective. Many people increase their income, but they also increase their expenses. They earn more, spend more, and remain trapped in the same cycle. This is known as lifestyle inflation, and it quietly destroys financial progress. The problem is that society constantly encourages consumption. Bigger houses, newer phones, more expensive cars. But very few people stop to ask whether these things actually improve their lives. The result is a race that never ends. A race where the finish line keeps moving further away. Have you ever noticed how quickly people adapt to improvements in their lives? A new phone feels exciting for a few weeks. A new car feels amazing for a few months. A bigger house feels impressive for a little while. Then it becomes normal. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation. Human beings naturally adapt to new circumstances. The problem is that many people spend their entire lives trying to buy permanent happiness through temporary upgrades. But satisfaction is always short-lived. The next purchase appears. The next goal appears. The next desire appears. And before they realize it, years have passed. Not because they lacked opportunities, but because they never escaped the cycle of constant consumption. True financial progress begins when you stop asking, "What do I want to buy?" and start asking, "What kind of life do I want to build?" One of the biggest differences between wealthy individuals and everyone else is how they view opportunities. Most people focus on earning money. Wealthy people focus on creating value. Most people ask, "How can I make more money?" Wealthy people ask, "How can I become more valuable?" Because money follows value. The marketplace rewards people who solve problems. The larger the problem, the greater the reward. This principle has created countless fortunes throughout history, not because someone chased money, but because they focused on becoming useful. Consider some of the most successful people in history. Their wealth wasn't created because they chased money directly. It was created because they solved problems. Some built technologies that improved communication. Others created systems that made transportation easier. Some organized information. Others created products that saved people time. The money came later. Value came first. This principle remains true today. The internet has created opportunities that previous generations could never imagine. But the fundamental rule has not changed. The more value you create for others, the more opportunities tend to come back to you. That doesn't mean success happens overnight. It rarely does. But it means that focusing on usefulness often produces better results than obsessing over wealth itself. The greatest misunderstanding about wealth is believing it only exists in a bank account. True wealth includes time, health, relationships, peace of mind, freedom. Because there is little value in becoming financially rich if you remain poor in every other area of life. Some of the wealthiest people in history discovered this too late. They spent decades accumulating money, only to realize they had sacrificed everything else. The goal is not to become rich. The goal is to become free. And money is simply one tool that can help you achieve that freedom. For a moment, I want you to imagine something. Imagine that somehow, 10 years from now, you meet the future version of yourself. Not the version you hope to become. The version your current actions are creating. The person standing in front of you is the direct result of the decisions you make every day, the habits you repeat, the thoughts you entertain, the excuses you accept, and the opportunities you either pursue or ignore. Now imagine sitting down with that future version of yourself. What would they tell you? Would they thank you for the sacrifices you're making today? Would they appreciate the discipline you showed when nobody was watching? Would they be grateful that you invested in learning, growing, and improving yourself? Or would they ask why you waited so long to start? Why you spent years postponing important decisions? Why you allowed fear to control your actions? Why you convinced yourself that someday was a real day on the calendar? Because here's the truth. The future isn't something that suddenly arrives. The future is being built right now, in this moment, with every choice you make, every hour you spend, every habit you repeat. Most people underestimate what they can accomplish in 10 years. But they also underestimate the consequences of wasting 10 years. The small decisions often seem insignificant. One unnecessary purchase, 1 hour wasted, one missed opportunity, one excuse. By themselves, they appear harmless. But over time, they compound, just like investments. And that's one of the most powerful principles in life. Everything compounds. Knowledge compounds. Discipline compounds. Confidence compounds. Relationships compound. Money compounds. But so do excuses. So does procrastination. So do bad habits. The person you become tomorrow depends on what you're compounding today. Imagine your future self looking directly at you right now. What advice would they give? Would they tell you to take more risks? To stop worrying about what other people think? To start investing in yourself sooner? To spend more time with people who truly matter? To stop chasing things that don't bring real fulfillment? Perhaps the greatest tragedy in life isn't failure. It's realizing too late that you were capable of much more than you allowed yourself to become. Because most limitations are not physical. They're mental. They're stories we repeat until they feel like facts. Stories about why we can't, why we shouldn't, why we're not ready. But your future self knows something your present self often forgets. You don't need to have everything figured out. You simply need to begin. One decision, one habit, one step at a time. Because extraordinary lives are rarely built through extraordinary moments. They're built through ordinary actions repeated consistently over many years. And one day, without even realizing it, those small actions become a completely different life. The life your future self is already waiting for you to create. If you remember only one thing from this video, let it be this. Money is not the destination. It never was. Money is a tool, a resource, a vehicle, but it is not the purpose. The purpose is freedom. The freedom to choose how you spend your time. The freedom to pursue meaningful work. The freedom to build relationships that matter. The freedom to live according to your values rather than your fears. Too many people spend their lives chasing money without ever asking themselves why. And in doing so, they reach goals that leave them feeling exactly the same. Because no amount of money can replace purpose. No amount of money can replace peace of mind. And no amount of money can compensate for years spent living someone else's definition of success. True wealth begins in the mind. It begins with awareness, with discipline, with gratitude, with intentional choices. Long before it appears in a bank account, the way you think shapes the way you act. The way you act shapes the results you create. And those results eventually become your life. So as you leave this video, ask yourself one simple question. If wealth is more than money, what kind of wealth am I building today? Because every decision you make is casting a vote for the person you are becoming. And the future is watching. Thank you for listening. And remember, true wealth goes beyond money.